why do I still have this mindset that Toshi is hypothetically a sleeping giant, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though seeing, altcoins as of right now not necessarily doing the best and having a pretty big pullback, generally speaking? Well, it's because I still view Toshi in the same regard. I still like it fundamentally. I still like it in terms of its, just presence overall. And even with the pullback as of right now, market cap currently, at the time I'm recording this, right, it's below 350 million. So I'm aware that, yeah, it's still pretty big actually in the grand scheme of things, despite what we're seeing as of right now, generally speaking. Now, it could be lower though by the time I upload this video, but even if it does go lower, I still don't mind because my mindset is still dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. So if let's say the price did go lower and I'm dollar cost averaging, I don't know why I'd complain about that if my goal again is the dollar cost average. Now, I'm not telling you to do anything, but it's just my mindset. Now, ultimately, I think Toshi has a pretty giant market cap, right? I mean, again, something with a market cap that is, still around that $300 million range. It's not small by any means. So I think it's pretty giant in that sense. But I think it's kind of sleeping because even though at one point we saw that pretty good kind of recent rally, and then there was a pullback, then it had a pretty good recovery. Now altcoins are generally speaking having a pullback. Even still, despite that, I still kind of feel it's a little bit sleeping in that sense because we haven't seen that next leg up when it comes to Toshi, right? So, to me, this is why I would actually consider it to be somewhat a sleeping giant. Now, sometimes people like to say, oh, this is not going to gain hypothetically any attention. Now, again, it's going to be different on case-by-case basis on how people take a look at Toshi. But then, I kind of feel like sometimes things do move in trends, right? Of course, we've seen Solana meme coins become very popular. We've seen, again, just other meme coins and generally speaking become very popular. But when it comes to the meme coins on the base network, I don't feel like I've seen that become mainstream yet. And Toshi is a meme coin on the base network. And for the longest time possible, right, we saw Brett have more attention when it comes to Toshi. And it made sense, Brett just felt a little bit more kind of established, right, in terms of the presence. We saw, I think for the kind of first time, Toshi have that recognition somewhat on par with Brett because not too long ago, I was seeing the market cap when it comes to Toshi. It like flipped Brett, it was actually a little bit higher. That's very impressive. I mean, again, if I had said quite a while back ago that, hey, you know what, maybe one day Toshi is going to have the same amount of attention as Brett, which I actually kind of talked about, but even besides that, a lot of my friends that I said that to, right? Or maybe when I just talked about that idea, they were like, what are you talking about? Brett's always going to be more popular. But now, even though Brett's still pretty massive, I feel like the attention is somewhat a little bit on the decline, but then Toshi is somewhat on the incline a little bit. Now, we're in by no means, I think, an altcoin season, but that's still very impressive in my perspective. Now, it could be different, right? Who knows what's going to happen during an altcoin season? Who knows? Maybe Brett does become eventually more popular than Toshi. I still do believe in Brett, by the way, but I have to just say it how it is. I just kind of feel like Toshi is having that incline in terms of momentum, whereas Brett, it's still pretty massive in terms of market cap, but it seems to not just be increasing, And I think a lot of it is maybe tied to kind of the strides Toshi has been taking, like, news about the OKX listing in the US, which I talked about, in my most previous video when it comes to Toshi. Also, what we've seen historically, what Toshi has done with Coinbase, and also on top of that, Binance US. So it's been making strides in that sense, right? It's gaining more exposure. And again, I don't think we've seen an altcoin season, but Toshi seems to be doing, kind of things that I would find pretty interesting. Not to mention as well, Toshi is not necessarily, I think, going to become the biggest meme coin of all time. And I don't expect it to be that way either because, it is a meme coin on the base network. The base network, even though it is Coinbase's layer 2, it doesn't necessarily have like the most popularity out there. Like even as a layer 2, I don't think it's arguably the most popular one. That's just my perspective. And I think maybe a lot of it is tied to because the base network does not have its own native token. So it's kind of a little bit sometimes not that easy to evaluate its kind of presence because, again, it doesn't have its native token. If I take a look at, for instance, Arbitrum and its native token called ARB, it's easy to say that, oh, take a look at the market cap. It's over $1 billion, for instance. All right, it's easy to kind of check that out. But then when it comes to the base network, Sure, we can take a look at statistics. Sure, we can take a look at what it's done in terms of, the figures and stuff like that. But then it's not that easy to just pinpoint and say, oh, the base network has this market cap right now. It's not like, again, something that I could do, right? Because again, the base network doesn't have its own native token. So I think that sometimes a lot of my friends, they don't really kind of understand the scale of the base network in that sense because they have nothing to just say, oh, take a look at the market cap. But I still like it nonetheless because if let's say there's an altcoin season, if let's say there's, a moment in time in which things do become better, I feel like just because Coinbase is on the S&P 500, because it is, publicly listed, just having Toshi, a meme coin on there, I think that does maybe bring some, attention. Who knows, right? But it wouldn't surprise me if it did. And it's already kind of doing it in a sense as of right now because, again, Toshi market cap is still over 300 million currently. But again, this is all without an altcoin season, so I'm really excited to see if, let's say, there is an altcoin season. Because, I have not seen projects on the base network experience an altcoin season. So I'm still waiting and seeing what happens. But still, even despite that, Aerodrome is still pretty massive. Toshi, relatively speaking, Brett also, right? So I just like what I'm seeing overall, but I'm just still staying patient. If I kind of view the base network to be a sleeping giant as well, in a sense, and I take a look at something like Toshi, and that is arguably, I think, a top 5 popular project on the base network, despite, being a meme coin, I would hypothetically maybe consider it a sleeping giant as well, because as, the saying goes, right, a high tide raises all ships. If, let's say, the base network does hypothetically pretty good, I'm assuming that maybe some of the projects might go along with the ride. You've seen it when it comes to Solana, right? When Solana had that pretty good attention, we saw something like, Book of Meme. We saw Dog with Hat kind of go along with the ride historically. We've also seen something like Bonk. Bonk is still pretty massive right now, but I'm saying, we've kind of seen that before. Will it happen to the base network exactly? Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me if it did. Now, 2 cents, around a 25x from here, market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 8.5 billion. That market cap, again, it's just not something that would necessarily surprise me too much. Give or take around 10% of Dogecoin's all-time high market cap back in 2021. Again, that was years ago. And if even with the way altcoins are looking right now, I don't know if Dogecoin could do over 20x in the next 5 months, right? I don't know if Shiba Inu could do that as well. So this is my point of view. I mean, if someone said Toshi, Shiba Inu, or Dogecoin, I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but I'm going to have to choose Toshi. This is just my perspective, but you know what? This is the way I view it, and I'm just still staying patient, and that's about it. So, yeah, sure, the markets are not doing the best as of right now, but I just don't want to give up. I want to see what happens, so I'm just going to wait. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. And I want to say thank you for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it, and feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd also greatly appreciate that. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.